Most AI assistants are stuck within the IDE or the web chat. And the problem that we have is that they are smart, but they are not able to use our own files, use our own context, use other web apps. And luckily, there is something called the Model Context Protocol. And this frees the AI assistant from just being smart within this box to being smart with the use of your own database, other APIs, other tools out there that you give it to actually use it for you. My name is Liam Vervliet. I'm a data engineer, and on this channel we discover how we can use AI to generate real business value. I focus on medium-sized businesses and the principles of AI and the things you need to know and learn in order to actually use AI for your business and enhance your workflow. So here we are at the Anthropic website, where they have made available the documents through this proposed Model Context Protocol. Really quick, this is basically an open protocol that standardizes how applications provide context to LLMs. That's the first line of this Model Context Protocol document webpage. And what this means and what they actually want is that, for example, a model provider like OpenAI actually also uses this protocol. Context protocol is actually not owned by Anthropic. So they created it, they proposed it as a way to provide the context to LLMs, but they actually, their hope is that that OpenAI and the whole market will adopt this protocol and will actually use it to implement tools within their LLMs. But yeah, let's quickly dive into how this works. Well, it is basically, as I said, a way for applications to provide context to the LLMs. So the LLM is based within your chat box, and it does not know of other tools, other data in other databases somewhere else. It only knows its own knowledge. But what if you could actually connect APIs? So, for example, a weather app, or you could connect a database, but it could also, for example, be a way of how you prompt the tool. So it could be that, for example, when you have a complex task, that the MCP server that you've connected actually has this sort of template or thinking of the task pre-prepared, recognizes the difficulty of the question that you just asked to the AI assistant, either it be within your IDE or within the web chat. And based on the difficulty, it will basically cut up this question within a logical sequential flow. There is actually an MCP out there called sequential thinking, which we'll look later into this video at, that actually then cuts this question up in multiple questions and then goes through it sequentially, giving better results. So as you can see, the MCP server can be many different things, and it basically just gives your AI assistant more intelligence. So what is an MCP server? Claude defines it as a lightweight program that exposes the specific capabilities through the standardized model context protocol. And that this gets a bit technical, but how that looks like, it basically is, it takes in the request, then it basically has defined how the tool works. So the LLM can understand through this, okay, so what does this MCP do? The MCP has then this way of processing this request, and then it will, of course, return the request, the answer, whatever it did with the data that it just processed. So if you want, you can look at these documents and get deeper into this and create your own MCP servers, even if you want to. So how do you implement a MCP server within Claude? So I will personally just run through the quick start guide that they provided. So what you would do is you would go to the settings tab. You would then go to developer in the left hand of the bar, and there you would click on edit config, which creates a configuration file. And usually at this point, whenever you have an MCP server selected, it already explains what you should put into the config. So it's easy copy and paste from there. I can show you that real quick. So basically explains how the MCP server would look like, either it be from Windows or it be for Mac Linux. You will need Node.js, that's a very important one, installed on your computer to run this properly, to run the packages. And then restart Claude to see the tools. Because whenever you have it enabled, whenever you successfully edit an MCP tool, it will show up in the right corner of your chat. It will show those tools and you can start asking questions to Claude, and it can either recognize which tool to use, or you could specifically mention the tool to use within the Claude chat. So looking at how does it look like, for example, when you want to add such a tool. So to, for example, install a selected MCP server, in this case, we use the GitHub one that I introduced in the beginning. So the one which you could use to create repositories and everything. You would basically go to the GitHub project. There they have explained it on how to add it to Claude or to Cursor. In this case, scroll down a bit. And here they have explained usage with Claude Desktop. And just as mentioned, to your config file, you would add the following. So you could either do it via Docker or via MP or npx. And don't forget to put in your GitHub personal access token. This is important because otherwise it would not have access to your GitHub and create repositories or upload files for you. One more thing before we start looking at the best possible or the best MCP servers out there and how to, for example, install them within an IDE like Cursor, it's important to first go over the types of MCP servers, because this can differ quite a bit. And what is important is that, for example, you could either have a local MCP server. So this is something that you would download, you would clone the repository, have it basically somewhere within your files of your local hard drive, and from there implement it into Claude. And I'll show you in a bit how that looks like. There's also something called like the remote MCP servers, and you can edit through SSAE. So these servers run on a web service, so they either run in the cloud or on an accessible server. There are a couple good websites out there that actually list out a lot of the MCPs created by people that you can install and use within your IDE or web-based chat. So the first one being is glemma.ai. So here we actually have a very good repository which is already divided up in different types of MCPs. So either for file systems, knowledge and memory, marketing, developer tools, databases. Within here you can basically just search for them, look through based on popularity, for example like GitHub stars, the date added. So yeah, very good overview of a lot of MCPs out there. So moving on to our next repository, we actually go to smithery.ai. So smithery.ai is basically the same as gilama.ai, but the categories it isn't as good as Gilama, I would say. They don't really have that much categories. And then the final directory that I would recommend is the Model Context Protocol servers on GitHub. So this is within the Model Context Protocol GitHub project that you can find from third parties till community-based servers and even some other frameworks and resources. Now going over to Cursor, we are going to start with actually using one of those MCP servers, starting off with a very, very valuable one, which is the Browser Tools MCP. And this one is maybe a bit harder to install, but really valuable whenever you did install it though. So we can already see some of it work here. So what you actually have to do after you installed it, you always have to run this command in the terminal to actually start up the Browser Tools server. This is usually not needed for the other ones, just specifically for Browser Tools in this case. All the other tools that I've installed, I don't have to do this. So what we basically can do now is we can go to the chat and ask it if it can see the console logs of the Browser Tools website that I'm going to look at in a bit. Took from another extension the console logs. So this is quite funny in that sense. we see it's all the data layer inspector, auto detecting, yes, filter load resource. So a few of those errors, and it immediately has those errors within our chat so that we can actually directly solve it if it were our code and our website that had this problem, this error. So in this sense, this is quite nice and will really speed up the development flow of web apps, websites, and that sort of stuff. Browser Tools actually provides a good guide for the installation of their MCP. So let's quickly go through it. Is you have to download it from GitHub, so git clone in this sense would be the best. It doesn't matter where, just somewhere on your computer. From there, we can install the Chrome extension. That's what we just downloaded as well from GitHub. So we would go to manage extensions, and from here we would load the unpacked extension. So as you can see where the file is, you would basically load in this folder, Chrome extension. And from there, you can basically start setting up your MCP tool. And I'll show you just in a bit how that works. So let's first see within Chrome where you can find this. So let's go to extensions. And at extensions, you would basically press on load unpacked. And from here, you can select the directory that you would use. And this would then load in the extension that we need. So that would load in browser tools. And now we're done. Now we're done and it's all loaded. So now that we have the extension downloaded, we can actually have the MCP look into our console logs. But before that, we actually still have to install the MCP within our IDE. We do that through the command type. So give it a good name and then basically the command that they provided on their webpage. You paste it in here and from here you're good to go. So all we need to do is one more thing. We have to start up the server before we can actually use it. And that will be a command, which is also provided on the website of the Browser Tools guide. So scrolling through a bit, which would be npx agentdesk AI Browser Tools server. So this would download the packages and then run it. And from here, the best way for the IDE, the coding AI assistant, to look into the console logs that you are currently looking at is to click on inspect and go to the console logs tab. Through this, it will recognize the console log that you are looking at and it can directly load in all the errors that you have or the problems, and you can debug it with the AI assistant that way. So that's how the Browser Tools works. So another very handy MCP out there is Brave Search together with Valley, and I'll show you how to actually use such a MCP server within an IDE like Cursor, because this one specifically is actually made for Claude desktop, but we can easily integrate this with our own environment as well. Within our own IDE. Braveheart is basically a service that allows you to search the web, but with a bit more intelligence. It can do some local searches, so really based on location. Can also create better queries, have the IDE understand better what to search. Overall, it's a better way for your tool to search the web, even though IDEs like Cursor can already search the web. So here it says what we would have to put within our config files. In this case, we just want to use the arguments and the environment. These ones are very important, as is the npx command. So going over to Cursor, this is important because within here we can see how to easily integrate this within our IDE. We do not have to download anything locally. We can just set up a type command as well, put in the name, and then basically set it up through an environment. So we first put in the environment. We then put in the npx command, dy, and the rest of the command. And that enables us to use it within an IDE like Cursor. Let's see how Brave Search works actually for us. So let's say we would want to create our own MCP server with Brave Search myself that can, let's say we want to create an MCP server that actually can connect to Git, to, let's say, to Hugging Face. I think it'll show us still on what it can do. So it's generating the command, it's thinking. Okay, so here's the first call. So it's going to put in the first search query. Now it's going to use sequential thinking, not MCP, to basically cut up the question. Start thinking. It does another search again based on what it found. Starts looking at the results again. So it took a lot of steps to finally get there. You can also basically, by the way, you can also set up a setting which basically always accepts it for you, but I like to accept it to always check what it does. But it basically took a lot of steps, searched a lot of websites, also downloaded some websites through Markdown, and used sequential thinking to really cut up what it needs and what the next questions are within its thinking. And based on that, it gave me a response, which, okay, set up your development, and it's in the project structure even, implementing your MCP server. Even gives a demo with a weather API, it looks like, yeah. Okay, this is quite advanced. So yeah, this basically allows you to do a lot of stuff. It can even download, for example, scripts from a YouTube video, something that you, maybe some project that you saw that you want to recreate. And it can create a guide for you to go through this within your IDE. There's a lot of things that we can do with these MCP tools out there. We also curated some good MCPs out there, ones that really boost your workflow. I've put them down in the description of this video, so you can check them out, same as the directories that I talked about. And that concludes it for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and stay tuned for the next video. The next video, I'll actually go into a framework for content generation, a agentic framework, where we dive deep into how can we use AI to actually research the topics that you might already are aware of. So maybe something new is out there in the market, but you don't want to take the time to really research it or write it. So you can actually use an agentic framework to collect all the text and data for you, all the information. So you only have to then curate your content after that. So stay tuned if you want to learn more about how to boost your content generation and generate value through that.